At first glance, The Little Prince looks like just another kid's book, right? But Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's story is, honestly, one of the most profound tales ever written about what it really means to grow up. So today, let's unpack the simple, beautiful secret that's hiding right at the heart of this timeless classic.
Okay, so it all kicks off with this drawing our narrator made when he was just 6 years old. He shows it to a bunch of grown-ups and asks them, "Does this drawing scare you?" And you know what they all said? "Scare me? Why would I be scared of a hat?" But here's the kicker, it's not a hat. So, we have this question, a boa or a hat? This really gets to the heart of it. The world of grown-ups versus the eyes of a child. And right there, in that one little misunderstanding, you find the central conflict of the entire book. It's all about two totally different ways of looking at the world.
And this contrast is everything. You've got the grown-ups, who just see the surface. To them, it's a hat, plain and simple. They're all about facts, figures, sensible stuff like politics and neckties. But the child? Oh, the child sees what's really going on. They see the imagination, the story, the stuff that's hidden. They see a boa constrictor digesting an elephant.
So fast forward a bunch of years. Our narrator's grown up, he's a pilot now, and he's just crashed his plane in the middle of the desert. And that's where he meets this incredible little person. And when he shows him that old drawing, the little prince doesn't see a hat at all. He just immediately says, no, I don't want an elephant inside a boa. I mean, can you imagine? Finally, someone who gets it, someone who can actually see.
This brings us to a sort of tour of strange grown-ups, the prince's journey to understand what adults call matters of consequence. See, the little prince is on this big journey from his tiny little planet trying to figure out the universe, but what he ends up finding is, well, a whole bunch of really weird grown-ups, and every single one is completely obsessed with their own very important matters of consequence.
Okay, so first up, he meets this king. This guy claims he rules over everything, the whole universe. But his power, it's totally empty. It's an illusion. Like, he can command the sun to set, but only when it's already time for the sun to set. It's just a perfect, hilarious look at authority that has absolutely no real substance. Next, he runs into the conceited man. Now, this guy is something else. He lives all by himself on his planet, but all he wants is for people to admire him. He literally can't hear anything unless it's a compliment. It's just a powerful look at how empty vanity really is.
And then you have the businessman. This guy is just endlessly busy. What's he doing? He's counting the stars. Over and over. Why? Because he thinks he owns them. The little prince has this fantastic point, right? He says, well, I own a flower, and I water it every day. But the businessman, he's no use at all to the stars he says he owns. It's such a brilliant critique of pointless materialism.
And after every one of these bizarre encounters, the little prince just shakes his head and says, the grown-ups are certainly altogether extraordinary. You can just feel his total confusion, right? He's completely baffled by the logic of the adult world. They're all so obsessed with things that, to him, just don't seem to matter one bit.
So, that brings us to the secret of the fox, and learning what truly matters. Because after this whole tour of strange adults, the prince finally lands on Earth. And it's right here, in a moment of real heartbreak, that he's about to learn the single most important lesson of his entire journey.
He's wandering along, and he stumbles upon this garden, and it's filled with 5,000 roses. 5,000! And he is just heartbroken. See, his flower, the one back on his little planet, she told him she was the only one of her kind in the whole universe. He thought he had this priceless, unique treasure, and now he just feels like all he has is a common, ordinary rose.
And so as he's lying there crying in the grass, a fox shows up. And the fox says something strange. He says he can't play with the prince because he's not tamed. And that one word, tamed, well, that turns out to be the key to the whole story.
So what on earth does that mean? To tame. The prince is just as confused as we are, and he asks the fox that exact question, the one that changes everything. Well, the fox explains it so simply. To tame something, he says, it means to establish ties. He explains that right now, to him, the prince is just a little boy like 100,000 other little boys, and the fox is just a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if the prince tames him, they'll need each other. They'll become completely unique in all the world to one another. And then the fox shares his secret. He says, and now here is my secret, a very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And there it is. That's the answer to everything we've seen so far. The hat that wasn't a hat, the king with no power,
the businessman counting stars. The truly important things, you can't see them, you can't count them. You can only feel them with your heart. Okay, so being responsible for your rose. This is all about applying that secret to love. Because with this incredible new insight, the little prince finally understands the truth about his own special flower.
He actually goes back to that garden of 5,000 roses, and now he sees things clearly. He tells them why his rose is so different. It has nothing to do with how she looks. She's unique because, well, she's the one he watered. She's the one he put under a glass globe for protection, the one he sheltered behind a screen. He listened to her, even when she was bragging or being quiet. All that time he wasted on her, that's what makes her so incredibly important.
And this leads to the fox's final, crucial piece of wisdom. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose. See, that's the thing. When you create that bond, that unique connection, that love, it comes with responsibility. It's not just a feeling you have, it's an active, ongoing commitment.
And that brings us to what is truly essential, the final lesson back in the desert. We're back with our pilot, who is now literally dying of thirst. The prince's whole journey is about to come full circle, tying the fox's secret directly to the meaning of life, survival, and beauty itself.
After walking for what feels like forever, completely exhausted in this huge, empty desert, they finally find a well. And the water they find, it's so much more than just water. It's like a treasure. It's made sweet by that long, hard journey under the stars, by all the work and hope that went into finding it.
And the little prince says something that just brings the whole book into perfect focus. He says what makes the desert beautiful is that somewhere it hides a well. Think about that. The beauty of the desert isn't the sand you can see. It's the invisible thing, the hidden promise of water that gives it its real beauty.
And that's really the timeless message of this book, isn't it? The most important things in our lives, love, friendship, real beauty, they're all invisible. You feel them with your heart. It's what the grown-ups in the story forget, and what the little prince has to travel across the universe to learn. The things that have real consequence can't be seen with your eyes. They can only and will only ever be understood by the heart.
So, I guess it leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, right? If the desert is beautiful because somewhere it's hiding a well, and if a single rose becomes the most important thing in the world because of the time you waste on her, what's the essential, invisible thing that gives your world its beauty?